Welcome back to Peek into COS. This episode is brought to you from the Studio 809 Community Podcast Studio at the Next Us, a professional cooperative environment for small businesses in downtown Colorado Springs. Today we are joined by Melanie and Matthew Hexter, owners of Lemon Lodge Ski Bar. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Doug.
Great to have you here. So I realize that there is truly no Lemon Lodge without lemon wine. Fair to say?
Absolutely.
So before we get into talking about the lodge, take us back in time. How did the two of you really embark on this journey of crafting wine made out of lemons?
So, Doug, that's a really fun story because it goes back to my high school years. Wow. I was the kid who always got in trouble. I was so bored. And so when my wife and I met in college and we were talking about marriage, I said, you have the unique opportunity to steer me in productive ways.
Great. So it was in the vows.
Well,
it was a prenuptial.
Almost, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So our first Christmas, she bought me a gift card to go to a coffee roasting class. I loved coffee. And back then there wasn't even a Starbucks. So this was blazing a new trail. Started roasting coffee, learned how to do that. Did that for many, many years.
And I'll interject, it made the house smell so good.
Yeah.
But it would trigger the smoke alarms. So the babies would cry and the pets would hide under the bed. So I had to kick his budding roasting operation out to the garage.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So then after a while, I just got bored. Yeah. And then my wife bought me a Mr. Beer kit. So I learned how to make really bad beer.
Right.
But I was intrigued, right? All of a sudden, chemistry had a purpose.
Okay.
So took a chemistry of brewing class at a local college and learned how to do it technically, but then the art of it as well. So started brewing, and we would have monthly brew clubs at my house where we would say that let's try our wares.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And one time somebody brought some fermented Country Time lemonade. I'm like, you can do that? Yes, you can. And one thing turned into another. And I started making fermented lemonade, and that was the kind of the genesis of Evergood and our OG, our original flavor called Skier Pea, which was named by one of our snarky teenage sons.
Okay. Yeah.
And then here along the Front Range, it's practically the hub of the craft beer industry. Sure. You know, between here and Fort Collins, there are more breweries per capita than I think it's fourth in the whole U.S. And people from Nashville or Portland will fight you on that topic, but those are the stats.
Sure.
And people here started saying, you really ought to sell it. You really ought to go into business. And we had to say, we can't. We're not a licensed bonded winery. That's a federal offense. We're not interested in being arrested on moonshine charges.
Sure, yeah.
So he just kept tinkering. We kept making it and giving it away because he enjoyed making it.
Yeah. And the fun thing is, Colorado Springs is really known as a hub for startups. Mm-hmm. So I brought this idea to the startup community, did my pitches, would let people try it, and people, they vote with their wallet.
Yeah.
They said, we will pay for this,
right.
Which was pretty cool. And some background on me, I'm psychologically unemployable. I just do not play well in the sandbox, even though I've worked corporate.
Okay.
Some pretty, Rolls-Royce, Hewlett-Packard, some of those. I just realized I needed to try something on my own. And after some really good input from mentors from the startup community, we decided we would take the plunge and launch into Evergood. At that time, Evergood Elixirs, now renamed Evergood Adventure Wines, and start making lemon wine.
And what year was that, Matthew?
So that was in 2017.
Okay.
And then in 2018 is when we got all of our licensing. It's kind of there's a bit of rigor that goes with it.
Yeah.
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
Federal, state, county, local, and everybody wants a check.
Yeah.
And they're happy to cash it and wait on it for a couple months.
Well, and now I really do see the connections with Mike at 300 Days of Shine, too,
Yeah.
because the
Yes.
stories have some similar parallels of him going up to Bronco tailgate parties
Yes.
and giving out, what he was doing. And
Yes.
so I can see, because your original is still in Monument, correct? Or no?
We're actually in Palmer Lake.
You're in Palmer Lake.
Yeah, so our winery is still there.
Okay. That's
just about 25 minutes from downtown Colorado Springs.
So now let's let listeners know that there is a ski bar in downtown Colorado Springs where we don't have slopes, and yet there's this unique concept of what people can do. And so, one, where did the idea come from? And two, let's let listeners get a glimpse as to what the experience is like.
My turn. So, because Palmer Lake is a small community, doesn't draw a lot of foot traffic, we have to be very aggressive to go out and sample our wines, which now there are 6, and they're all in the outdoor rec space. Skier Pea, Snow Bunny is the strawberry lemon. Heartwarmer is our number 1 seller. It's a mulled, meaning spiced, cranberry lemon wine that you drink warm in a coffee mug when it's cold outside. So they all have outdoor focus.
Okay.
We knew that for years we had talked about, do we open a tasting room someplace with a little more foot traffic? And we were actually on our anniversary dinner in June of 2022, downtown on Tohon, having dinner.
Yeah.
And it was a June night, and it was beautiful out. And it was vibrant. There were a lot of people out walking
Sure.
and doing the same thing we were, having dinner. And Matthew turned to me and said, maybe this is where we ought to open our wine tasting room. So we actually lingered downtown and walked past a lot of different vacancies and peeked our windows, eyes in the windows. Would this be a good spot? A couple nights later, most of our kids, we have 6 children, 5 of them are adults, and several of them were home around the dinner table that weekend. And we said, we're kind of rebooting the idea of opening a wine tasting room. What do you think? And literally we were met with rolling eyes and,
Mom, Dad.
Yeah.
and they said, sorry, wine bars are boring. And so on the spot, we said, how would you make a wine bar not boring? And one of them said, you'd add this. And he whipped out his phone and he showed us a video of the simulator that the U.S. ski team uses at their training center in Park City, Utah. And he said, you can't get a janky one. People in Colorado love their mountains. You got to get the real deal. So, that all happened in about a 4-day span, and it set Matthew on this path of exploring this world-class simulator to bring to downtown Colorado Springs.
So what's the brand of the simulator, and how'd you find it? And let's let listeners know, how does it work and how'd you find it?
Sure. So
Yeah.
our 19-year-old son, at that time 18, very outdoor and very adventurous. He's the one that kind of did the search for
Okay,
us,
sure.
and found this simulator. It's called SkyTech Sports.
Okay.
And they have 4 of them at the U.S. Ski Team headquarters in Park City. And he presented it to us, and it's like, that's really interesting, but I'm not purchasing anything unless I could try it.
Okay, yeah.
So we reached out to SkyTech. They just have one office in L.A., and it turns out they had some private units in Denver.
Oh,
So
okay.
they needed to get permission to use that. A rep.
Private as in people's homes?
Imagine that in your home, Jim.
There you
Yeah,
go.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the reps flew out to Denver. Myself, our oldest daughter, my son Lincoln, who this was his genesis
Okay.
idea. We went and tried it.
Right.
I took videos, everything. We're like, holy smokes, this is just like
real deal.
skiing.
Yeah, the real
Wow, I
deal.
can see why the Olympians and pro athletes want to use this. So that's what we ended up getting.
All right. So now, for people who have either not skied or snowboarded before, is this a good opportunity to find out what it's really like without investing and going all the way up to the mountains. The simulation, is that similar?
It is in some respects,
Okay.
right? So somebody can come in and not have to buy any equipment. We have rental boots.
Yep.
You can ski or snowboard in your shorts or your sweats, whatever you
Sure.
feel comfortable with.
Sure.
And we like to say we can't teach you how to get on the ski lift. We can't teach you how to get off the ski lift.
Right.
But once you're on skis, that's where we can start teaching you.
Okay.
So it takes away some of the variables.
All right.
For instance, the length of the skis, the slope of the ski, of the ski
incline.
resort.
The
Yeah,
incline.
exactly. It takes away the variables of other people.
Sure.
Right? And so you're locked in. Let's say we're skiing. We're locked into the platform. So our legs are parallel. We don't have to worry about, the sloppy, the sloppy slopes, right? The
Yeah,
crust,
right.
the ice, some
Yeah.
of those variables.
Yeah.
And we can really focus on proper technique, proper carving, and proper balance,
Okay.
so that you get so many turns in that you're developing muscle memory.
So what you're describing, I could picture this maybe for a beginner, that this would be a great way to learn. What about somebody who's more experienced as a skier? When they come in, what are they telling you about the experience?
Well, I'll let Melanie tell the story.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, each of our sessions is 20 minutes, and they're one-on-one with a qualified instructor.
Okay.
So all our instructors are either PSIA, AASI certified, Professional Ski Instructors of America, American Association of Snowboard Instructors, or they've taught on the mountain. One of them's traveled internationally with the U.S. ski team. Because we live in Olympic City, USA.
You
So
got it.
those people exist right around the corner. So wherever you come from, whatever your background is, Matthew skied for 50 years, right? So whatever your background is, those instructors on this machine can take you to the next step. Here's a great story, though. It was August of last year that a young lady booked a session. She walked in on a Sunday afternoon. I'm guessing she was 14 or 15. She was with her parents. I don't think she had her license yet. Took off her hoodie, and her shirt said U.S. Ski Team. Wow, okay. So she went over and got her boots on, and her parents did not sit down. They paced the entire time. Her mom had tears in her eyes. And I gave him some space and eventually went over while her daughter was starting to ski and said, I think you have a story.
Yeah.
And she said, my daughter is on the U.S. ski team. She's a select member. That means that they've identified her as a rising star. And we have the full resources of the U.S. ski team at our disposal. I have driven her to Park City, Utah 4 or 5 times over the last couple of years to use this machine. So I've been following this SkyTech sport company on social media for a couple of years, hoping, praying that one would make it to Colorado so I wouldn't have to drive the
to
8
Park
hours
City.
to Park City.
Yeah.
So when I saw you launch your social media in January of 2023, I was thrilled. And a couple weeks later, she tore her ACL. So she had just finished her 4 or 6 month rehab.
Yeah.
2 days prior to coming to use our simulator, she had had her final appointment with her surgeon, who I have to assume is an endorsed U.S. ski team surgeon.
Right.
And the mom had whipped out her phone and said, okay, you say she's ready to go. How soon can she do this? And showed the mom, the surgeon, the video, and he said, sooner rather than later.
Okay.
I want her using that machine. Wow. So the great thing about it is because you're not on a slope, it reduces or eliminates that downhill pressure. So for people that are recovering from a hip or a knee or an ankle injury, there's no downward pressure.
Yeah.
They control the left to right speed, the carving, which gives them control. And therefore, if they feel a tweak, they can back off. Whereas if you're on mountain, your gravity is drawing you down that hill.
Right. So, Melanie, I'm sure we are going to have the interest right now of listeners. We'll make sure we do this at the end, too, but let people know the website.
Sure.
Because I'm sure they'll want to take a look and
Right.
see it. So where can they go?
Well, The name is a hybrid, Lemon Lodge. Lemon for the wine, because it's our wine tasting room. Lodge, because what we've done is tried to bring a ski lodge from the mountains down to the city to make snow sports accessible. Yeah. And that could be for a tourist. We have served people from Georgia and Texas and Arizona and Kansas and Florida and the Carolinas. And, they walk by and they say, "What is that?" One day this week, a young couple came in, said, "What is that? We need to do this." Booked for about an hour later, and she came in to get her boots on an hour later, and it turns out she was a professional ballet dancer from Atlanta.
Yeah.
And they'd never seen the mountains before, let alone skied them. Right. And boy, was her balance good.
Oh, wow. Right. Yeah. So the Lemon Lodge has been open since last summer, July, I'm thinking, of 23. Man, it's a startup. I mean, you're taking two unique concepts, and you have food as well as the wine. Tell people about, in addition, like what can they expect and experience when they come in?
Sure. So, Doug, it's like a Reese's peanut butter cup, right? Two great tastes that taste great together,
That's right.
Right?
That's great,
right? Yeah. So we say we're alpine on demand, aprés all day.
Yeah, there you
which
go.
Is kind of fun. So so you walk in, and you've got the ski simulator, you've got the ski lodge vibe, and we feature our ever good wines, like Melanie had shared earlier. Lemon Lodge is our tasting room. So it's kind of our petri dish.
Yeah.
We do a lot of tests with cocktails. Normally, you wouldn't think of doing a red wine with cocktails, right? You mix that with, vodka or tequila, and let's throw that out. Interestingly enough, however, my lemon wines mix incredible. In fact, you had mentioned Mike with 300 Days of Shine earlier. We use his products in our cocktails. So there's a great collaboration locally. Lee Spirits we use. So we feature a lot of our local as well. So you can get some really interesting cocktails. And our general manager, Chris Veneration, has just come up with some crazy cool cocktails. Yeah. We've got lodge food. Right. So think hearty, think comfort food, right? That it's easy to eat. You don't have to pay a lot for it. So we have families come in. They'll order some of our food. The adults will try some of the wine. If they don't like that, then we offer beers from iconic ski towns.
Okay, sure.
Right? Yeah. And then they ring the cowbell for whoever is on the simulator.
And what does that sound like?
Yeah, so we're going to ring this in a moment, but there's a great story of why we have cowbell.
Why you've got that.
Yeah, so
good.
Melanie, share why.
Well, in the ski race community, everybody's bundled up. They're on mountain. People are flying by at 65, 70 miles an hour. So you can't clap with mittens on and expect to be heard. So for years, these beautiful big cowbells, probably from Swiss dairy cows originally, are rung as a way.
Yeah. There you go.
A way of cheering as a racer comes by.
Sure.
So we decided we're a ski lodge. We want to be very family friendly and a very encouraging place, because for some people, we ring the cowbells simply because they let go of those handlebars on the simulator.
Yeah.
For other people, they take off and they're going, 50 miles an hour. It's in kilometers per hour on the screen.
Yeah, and it's virtual.
It is virtual, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But so we have cowbells on the tables for the other guests to cheer, because there's only one simulator. So there's only one skier at a time. Everybody else is watching and encouraging. But we decided, well, we're also in Olympic City, USA. So as each first-time skier or snowboarder steps off the simulator, we present a Lemon Lodge cowbell around their neck, kind of podium style, Olympic style. Yeah. And we usually say, you cannot buy your cowbell. You have to earn it.
Yeah.
You earned your cowbell. And adults, children alike walk down the street so proud of their cowbells because they did it.
Sure. Oh, that's a great story. That is a great story. And I think about as a startup, you've talked about the staff that you have as ski instructors, but you obviously have other staff that are involved with the rest. How is it doing business, and how do you find your employees?
Yeah. So right now we have 12 staff.
Okay.
A few are full-time. Most are part-time.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting when you put out such a progressive idea like this, so unique. We literally had to sift through hundreds, not tens, but hundreds of applications.
Yeah.
And we interviewed so many people. About a year ago we started,
Mm-hmm.
and we decided we were going to we only wanted the A+ players. And what I meant that was not only just experience, but attitude, their cultural values, right? How they interacted with us, because we figured how they interacted with us would be how they interacted with our guests.
You bet.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, and being in a mountain sports state, a lot of people would put on their online application, I'm a shredder. I've skied my whole life.
Yeah.
I'm a shredder. And so we'd reply, but have you taught?
Yeah.
We need people who've taught others how to ski.
Mm-hmm. It's a different skill.
It's a different skill set. So that was something we were not willing to compromise on.
Well, and I was going to say as well, if we hired the right people who cared deeply for people, genuinely,
Yeah.
we could probably overcome a lot of the shortcomings of opening a startup.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things we didn't know.
Okay.
There's a lot of things we know now, that we were, we have to pivot in some ways.
Sure.
But most of the time, most people are understanding when you're kind and you're honest, you're transparent, and you really show we're just trying to do our best.
If you were to describe the culture of what it's like to work there, how would you describe it?
Well, I'd say really upbeat.
Upbeat.
Our general manager is so good about keeping in touch with people when they were out of the loop for 2 weeks because they were traveling for the holidays or
Okay,
whatever.
yeah.
And people care about each other. We've got people
Good.
covering for each other. And they socialize outside of work.
Sure.
Which is huge. They're
So
celebrating
what's cool
each other's
about
birthdays.
that is that translates to visitors who may be listening to this podcast to know that you're when you come into the Lemon Lodge, you're really coming into a family business that is that really wants you to enjoy the experience more than just the 20 minutes for sure, but you get recognized and rewarded for that. But at the same time, you can have great beverages and food and just have a super experience that's unique in downtown Colorado Springs. Well, that's
Here's another fun story. So we get the honor of being a host location for Rocky Mountain Food Tours.
Yeah.
And they have multiple tour arrangements, tour the North Tour, the South Tour, the East Tour. But we've been the dessert location for one of their tours for 3 or 4 months now. So we get lots of groups. And if there isn't somebody scheduled on the simulator to ski or snowboard when they're planning to arrive, I usually bring my 13-year-old son and say, you need to hop on there. We need to be using it when this group comes in.
Sure.
And recently he was just carving up a storm. And the people in the tour said, is that one of your instructors? And I
Yes.
said, oh, no.
Child labor.
Right. No, actually, that's my 13-year-old son. He's gotten much better skiing since we've had a machine like this.
I love that. All right, so we're going to take a quick break here before we wrap up. And I've got to give a shout out to our sponsor for this episode, which is our great Colorado Springs Airport. There's something about our Colorado Springs Airport that drives travelers wild. Maybe it's the friendly customer service, the stress-free security process, or the laid-back vibe. Whatever it is, it's easy to see why so many people are falling in love with Colorado's small airport. So go ahead, fly COS, and see what all the fuss is about. Fall in love with Colorado Springs Small Airport. So here's the way we like to wrap up the podcast. I'm going to ask you each a different question. I have 3 questions. I'll ask you the first one, I'll ask you the second one, and then the third one you guys can decide how you want to do this, all right?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Yes, pretty much. So, Melanie, in 3 words, how would you describe Colorado Springs?
Well, the first 2 that come to mind are growing and beautiful.
Growing, beautiful.
I would say we've used this word before, but we think of it as our base camp.
Base camp. Yeah.
We want to use it as a place to go explore the other beautiful things in the county, in the state, in the southern part of the state.
All right, and we're going to build off of that in a minute. So, Matthew, what would you say is your favorite hidden gem in the whole Pikes Peak region? What's like the place you go to get away?
I didn't realize that Colorado Springs was so undulated. And what I mean by that is there's so many hills and valleys within the city.
Yeah.
So I would say there are some open spaces that you can go to that nobody goes to. In fact, where we live by UCCS, there's an open space in Garden Ranch that I walk the dogs every morning.
Yeah.
And they have carved out from the trees, almost framing in Pikes Peak, and they put a bench there. So we always walk to the bench, and I'm like, I have a beautiful view every morning of Pikes Peak.
Shh, don't share that.
Sorry.
I told him it was hidden, so yeah, no,
you did.
That's
you
fair.
pulled it out.
Yeah, listeners, we have, over 100 miles of trails and open spaces here in Colorado Springs. And if you go to visit COS.com, you'll learn a lot about where you can go. So, all right, here's a question for the 2 of you. Let's see if we can get you to agree on this. What is still on your bucket list of things to do here in Colorado Springs?
I'm ashamed to say it.
It's
We have been so busy. While we visited the Olympic Training Center.
Yeah.
I've not yet been able to make it to the museum.
Okay.
I know, shame on me, but I really do want to get over there.
The U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Museum. Okay, great.
Absolutely.
All right, Melanie, what about you?
Well, we have had the opportunity to stay at the Broadmoor, but I would say either Garden of the Gods Resort or Cheyenne Mountain Resort would be on a bucket list.
To do a staycation.
Right,
Yeah.
to do a staycation.
I love that.
Yep.
Okay. We're so fortunate to have those sorts of things in our backyard.
Oh, absolutely stunning.
That is wonderful. Well, okay, so to wrap it, tell our listeners, again, where they can go to find out more information, and if there's anything special coming up that you want them to know about, please do. This is your chance.
Sure. So easy peasy lemon squeezy. Go to lemonlodge.com for all the information there. If you want to learn more about my wines, just Google Skier Pea.
Skier Pea.
There's no other wine named like that. Now, here's what's important, Doug. It's not Skier's Pea.
Right.
Because that's disgusting.
Yes.
It's singular. Not
Skier
plural.
Pea.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, that's
Right.
great. Thank you for taking the time to share with us, and we are rooting for you, and we'll do everything we can to have our visitors and our residents come down and have a unique experience in the heart of Olympic City, USA. So on cue, let's let them know, lemonlodge.com. Woo!